Olá, eu sou o Cadu Cinelli e vou apresentar para vocês hoje 3 materiais que foram feitos por mim com costura e bordado. 2 deles fazem parte do acervo do grupo dos Tapetes Contadores de Histórias. E vou apresentá-los em ordem cronológica de quando eles começaram a ser feitos. Então vamos ao primeiro deles. É um painel. E esse painel ele começou a ser feito em 2012, na ocasião quando eu fui ao Benin. Benin é um país da África Ocidental. Um lugar muito importante na história também do Brasil. Mas eu conto que em 2012 eu fui lá para fazer a colaboração artística de um projeto da Inno Sorsy, uma grande contadora de histórias que é parceira dos Tapetes Contadores de Histórias.
Martin Massey and Nestor Vidano had a project in Porto Novo. It was based in Porto Novo in Benin, and their project was called Les Enfants Conteurs du Benin, which means the child storytellers of Benin. And their idea was by getting groups of children, not only in Porto Novo, but in GUIADA and other places, to learn how to tell stories, to research traditional stories of their region, that this would not only get them in touch with their own traditions, but also help them in their work at school, because it's in French and that's part of the curriculum, and also to express themselves, to learn to express themselves, to learn to talk, to speak, to communicate clearly. And it was a great, great project. Anyway, I knew Martine for many years, and she asked me if I would like to go over there to Benin and work with the children, as I'm a storyteller. And so I agreed. And then my friend Cadu Cinelli from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, I told him about it, and he said he would be happy to come along too. So we arrived there and met the children, started working a little bit with them. And then Martine said that they had an idea to take the children to GUIADA, which used to be the capital of Dahomey at one point, to walk the route of the slaves, because GUIADA was one of the ports from which slavers took captured people to Europe and North and South America and the Caribbean islands and all over. We arrived there and we thought that's a great idea. And Cadu is a storyteller, and he also works with textiles, appliqué, and different techniques of textile work. In Porto Novo also, Martin and Nestor had a small project that they wanted to do in the prison there. We said, well, why don't we go and use this story of the slave route with some of the prisoners. So Martin went and talked with the governor of the prison, or the deputy of the deputy governor of the prison, because the governor himself, the director, was away. And the deputy director said yes. He agreed that we could come and that we could do this storytelling textile project.
E nós estávamos lá e fizemos um projeto de costura e bordado de livros e painéis de pano com a técnica do appliqué, que é muito difundida no Benin, para contar o caminho dos escravos. Faço um parênteses aqui para contar para vocês que o Benin ele foi um dos portos mais movimentados e um dos maiores portos exportadores de pessoas que foram escravizadas durante todo o período da escravidão no mundo. Muitas dessas pessoas vieram parar aqui no Brasil. Bom, eu estava lá E com o Inno nós fizemos um projeto dentro da prisão civil de Porto Novo, em que nós fizemos esses painéis com a técnica do appliqué para contar a história do Caminho dos Escravos.
And so we began. We went and prepared the project, how we were going to do it. And we thought maybe a week, it would take about a week, 2 weeks to do it. And the idea was to look at the story, cut the story down into the different steps, the different phases of the story, get them to tell it, and then get them to make a storyboard of the route of the slaves story, and then cut out or make like squares commemorating each of the steps, each of the stages of this journey. So we went there and we were introduced to these men and young boys. The youngest, I think, was around 14. And they were all lived together in this small room. It was so small that not all of them could sleep at the same time. And so what they did was they would take turns. One group of them would sleep for so many hours, and then they would get up so that the others could. So three turns at sleeping at night. Now, these young men and boys, they were there for various reasons. The youngest one was there, I think, because he'd stolen something in the market and been caught, and was there for a couple of years. And from what we understood, none of them, some of them have been there 5, 6, 7 years, and with no idea if ever or when they would appear before a judge. There was no sign of any lawyers there, and they were just there in limbo, doing nothing all day in their room. We introduced the project to them, and they were all very, very enthusiastic to do it because there was nothing else to do, I guess. And so we told them the story and asked them, to tell it between themselves and divide the story up into the different stages as they saw it, and we would come back in a couple of days. We went back and they'd done everything. And they wanted more. Cadu showed them his works, his textile works, which went with the stories he told. We went and came back the next day, and each and every single one of them had made a storyboard, had drawn a storyboard. We'd taken paper and pens and pencils to them, and they'd all done everything like in a flash. Amazing. And so then Cadu had to run to the market in Cotonou, which was a huge market, the city, and he came back with materials which he'd bought for the next stage of the project. And so we went with these things. They'd seen Cadu's work, and so they knew that they could make appliqué, they could try different techniques of textile work. And they grabbed hold of the thing and they said, come back tomorrow. So the next day we went, and they'd already cut out characters, they'd cut out landscapes, they'd cut out lots and lots of things, each and every one. And it was amazing. And so we thought, this is going really fast. This is going much faster than anybody could have imagined. And so we said, well, we'll start arranging your characters, and we'll come back and we'll start the sewing. And the next day, it turned out to be the last day, because the next day when we arrived, the director of the prison had come back and stopped us at the gates, and totally refused to let us enter into the prison or go even to say goodbye to the guys. I guess it's human nature, no? He was the boss, and he had not given his permission, even though he wasn't there, and he wasn't going to allow this to go on, something which he had not sanctioned or permitted. Poor old Cadu had to go back to Cotonou to a friend who happened to be a dress designer and maker, and spent days sewing up all the bits and pieces that the guys had cut out, ready to appliqué. It's a sad story, really, because they were so happy and so creative and so enthusiastic, talented, really. And you wondered, you know, here they are in this prison for very minor offenses, and they were there, and there was nobody who was going to help them get out and use their talents and use whatever they had outside. I think often of these young men and boys. Some of them are quite old by now. And I always hope that somehow, by some miracle, they manage to get out of there and lead happy or useful lives, or at least free lives.